let's try number two. Number two, I've left order and dose up there because I have a feeling every single one of these things is going to have a doctor's order and then a dose request. Like, what are we going to have to do to dose these people? Yep, right there. Order. GeoPen, 800 milligrams IM, whatever that means, every 6 hours. Available. GeoPen powder, here we go again, which is reconstituted in water, 4 milliliters, bacteriostatic, I don't know what that means, to make 1 gram per 2.5 milliliters. There we go. 1 gram per 2.5 milliliters. Nice. How many milliliters will the MA administer? Y'all, this sounds a lot like number one. We're asking how many milliliters are we going to administer? And the doctor has told us we've got to give them 800 milligrams. Now, I've left off a couple things. Well, I've left off one thing right now. I've left off the every 6 hours. Whatever math we do, the dosage we get is going to be what we have to do every 6 hours. There's no reason to carry that through the calculation. I'm also looking at the middle there. I know I've got to turn milligrams into milliliters, so I need some kind of a conversion to get that. I happen to notice as I'm looking down, there's a lot of information in the second sentence, but the only one that's really important is the 1 gram per 2.5 milliliters. But I have exactly the same concern with that because milliliters is in the wrong spot. Here it's in the denominator, there it's in the numerator. So I think we have to do the exact same reversal of this factor and put it times 2.5 milliliters over 1 gram. Grab my eraser and get rid of this. Something tells me we're going to have to do that a lot today too as we work through these problems. Okay, now, so far so good. So far so good. I've got milliliters where I want them. Yes. The only downside is, I remember how we were able to divide off milligrams and milligrams last time? That's grams. That's grams right there. We can't divide off a milligram and a gram. A milligram is really tiny, and a gram is 1,000 times bigger. So we have to get rid of both the milligrams and the grams. There's a couple ways you can do that. I'm going to show you, keeping consistent with what we're doing right now, I'm going to show you the way we do it using another multiplication of fractions. Grams is down here. We don't want grams at all. That means grams has to go up top here. That's going to cancel off the grams. Milligrams is up here. We don't want it at all. That means milligrams has to go down here. This tells us we have to have a conversion between grams and milligrams, and we do. Now you have to pretend you're not an American for a second. There are only 3 countries on Earth that don't use the metric system, and we are one of those 3. But you're in the medical field, so you have to know that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. That's just one of those things you have to know, y'all. I hate to break it to you. Now, there's 3 fractions on the board, and I am convinced that we are done. I think those 3 fractions can be combined to get rid of every unit we need except for milliliters. I'm going to take care of the units first with the blue chalk. I think I'm using blue to cancel off units now. Grams goes off with grams. Yes. And milligrams goes off with milligrams. That's fine. You see how I jumped over that middle fraction? It doesn't matter. If you're multiplying a bunch of stuff together, you can do that. That's totally legitimate. Totally legitimate. No problem. Now, do you feel like getting rid of some other numbers too? For example, I can't help but notice 800 and 1,000. We can divide those down pretty nicely. They all have a factor of 100. So if I divide off this 800, I can just leave an 8 behind. And if I divide off that 1,000, I can just leave a 10 behind. And we can, I wrote that 10 in pink, I'm sorry. And we can go further if you want, but I don't know how you feel about decimals. We can also divide out that 2.5. But I happen to notice that the instructions say you may use a calculator. So all I'm going to do at this point, before I divide off any more numbers, is I'm going to bring everything down. And just, what's left here? Well, that's 8 over 1 times 2.5 milliliters over 1. Everything else divided off. And literally everything over here, except for that 10 in the bottom, So all we got to do now, that's a times, by the way, apologies. All we got to do now is do them. I can't help it. I'm a math guy. I got to do this. 2.5 and 10. 2.5 goes into 10 4 times. I'm sorry. I had to do it. I had to. I'm totally sorry. So now we can run the numbers. 8 times 1 milliliters. That's 8. 1 times 4. That's 4. Looks like we have to give our patients 8 divided by 4, or 2 milliliters of our solution. 2 milliliters of this solution that gives people, I gotta read it again, every 2.5 milliliters gives them a gram. 2 milliliters will give them 800 milligrams. Might seem a little involved. You're never doing anything more than multiplying and dividing. That's what's so nice about this procedure. Let's keep doing this procedure as we move forward.